We're putting in motion a set of executive orders on day one for President Trump. They'll represent the most comprehensive border security plan in American history. Nothing like this has ever been done before. It is the most robust, sweeping, far-reaching set of executive actions and authorities necessitated by this national emergency that anyone has ever contemplated. And when that is put into place, it will, once and for all, restore American sovereignty. And it will also restore the idea that the Defense Department has a fundamental role, has a core role in securing the homeland from foreign invasion.
That's the one and only Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, bringing the heat on the blitzkrieg of executive orders that are going to be signed on day one of Trump's presidency. It's happening, gang. It's really just literally hours away, 96, then 72, then 48 hours away. The great return, the great restoration that will officially begin on January the 20th. Hey, gang, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine. Staying strong physically, mentally. It's not just about living longer. It's about living better, which starts with a good night's sleep. Now, I've partnered with Beam because they're a health and wellness company that's put in the time and rigorous research to craft science-backed solutions that truly optimize every system in your body from the moment you wake up until you lay your head down to sleep. Now, I've been using Beam Dream every single night for a while now, and it has completely changed the way I sleep. The endless news cycles, the uncertainty about our future, the weight of it all. I gotta be honest, it gets to me. It left me tossing and turning for hours. I have a very hard time turning my brain off. But gang, seriously, I'm not kidding you. Since taking Dream, I literally crash at night. I fall asleep so fast, and I sleep deeply and soundly all throughout the night. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get that deep sleep we all need and deserve. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to each and every day. If I may make a suggestion, I love their brownie batter flavor. You gotta try it with a little cream in there. It's beautiful. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. I wake up feeling rested and ready to give my all, making a huge difference in how I show up every single day. Right now, you can save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Turley at checkout. It's time to stop letting sleepless nights hold you back. Transform your sleep and your day with Dream because you deserve it, gang. Click on that link or scan that QR code right now. Come on in, gang, one and all. Let's have some fun here today. As we count down the days, literally the hours until the new golden age officially begins, I thought it'd be fun to have a countdown of our own here. I want to count down the top 10 things Trump will do, according to his own words, on day one of his presidency. Now, this is actually based on an NBC report that came out today that talked about the top 11 things Trump will do. I conflated two of them. So they have a top 11. I got a top 10. I just conflated two. You'll see which ones. And this will help anticipate Christmas Day for January for all of us. The top 10 things Trump will do to unleash the new golden age on day one. You ready? You ready to count down with me? Well, let's do it, gang. Let's start with number 10, drill, baby, drill. Now, one of Trump's most frequent promises, repeated in almost every campaign speech, is his unwavering commitment to energy independence of the United States. And that begins on day one of his presidency. Here is what President Trump said to Sean Hannity several weeks back.
Because the media has been focused on this and attacking you. Under no circumstances, you are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
He's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's
drill,
not
drill.
That's not retribution.
I'm going to be, he keeps We love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator.
So that sounds to me like you're going back to the policies when you were president.
That's
all right.
exactly.
So there you have it, gang. Day one, drill. That's the key. See, for Trump, in order to bring down energy costs, he's repeatedly argued that the United States oil production would have to drastically, increasing U.S. oil production would have to massively explode in order to drastically reduce energy costs, which in turn will drastically reduce costs of goods. And then finally, the cost of living crisis. So drill, baby, drill. Day number one, executive orders going out to get our energy independence back. Number 9, implement tariffs. Now, I'm sure you've all heard about Trump forming what he's called the External Revenue Service. Have you seen this? And this is going to be a department tasked with collecting tariffs from other countries exporting their goods to America. Now, since the election, Trump repeatedly promised that he would sign an executive order on day one to implement a 25% tariff on products imported particularly from Mexico and Canada, 2 of America's biggest trading partners. Back on November 25th, he posted this on Truth Social, quote, on January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. So that's a big thing for President Trump. Bottom line, he's using tariffs as leverage. He's using tariffs as a bargaining chip. Again, this is something that a liberal international order would never, ever allow any of the G7 countries to use. In fact, as I understand, the IMF, the WTO, they would be dead set against any use of tariff in a liberal international trade system. Trump's like, screw that. Those days are over. We're bringing in tariffs, and those tariffs are going to be used as leverage to bring certain nations to heel in order to realize MAGA, America First base principles. Number 8, he's going to sign a ban on trans athletes and gender-affirming care. So that's where I conflate. The Newsweek article had those two as separate issues. I'm just putting them together. He's going to ban trans athletes and gender-affirming care. Now, this one is huge, and it's part of the backlash against wokeness that's happening all across our country. Trump has long promised that on day one, he would institute a national ban on trans athletes competing in women's sports across the board. Those days are over. He would end as well Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care for minors. You guys know what that means. It involves the physical, biological modification of the body of prepubescent children. A recent poll found that 74% of the public, 74%, oppose transgender athletes competing in female sports. And that is, of course, because the whole premise of sports is fairness. That's the entire premise of sports. If you don't have fairness, you do not have sports competition. I don't know what you got, but it ain't sports. And fairness, by its definition, involves exclusion. Certain people cannot be allowed to participate if a sporting event is to be fair. Heavyweights can't be allowed to get into the ring with lightweights. Heavyweight weightlifters can't be allowed to compete right alongside with lightweight weightlifters. Fairness involves exclusion. And so the vast majority of the country understands that if women are going to have a fair playing field and a viable sports tradition, trans athletes simply cannot be allowed to compete on the same field. And even more oppose puberty bar. I'm having my own Joe Biden moment. And even more opposed puberty blocker and a money. And even more oppose puberty blockers and other body modifications for prepubescent children. I got it out, Joe. I got it out. In fact, you'll notice that virtually all of these executive orders that Trump is signing on day one, they virtually all of them have at least 60% approval. This is huge. It's very similar to what we saw Newt Gingrich doing back in the Contract with America back in 1994. Every single one of those item issues, 10 item issues, every single one, he pointed out, had about 70% approval or above. And you needed to have that 70% approval because by the time the legacy media had come out against it in their 24/7 news cycle, and I think it was early 90s, CNN was there, 24/7 news cycle bashing whatever the Republicans were putting forward, the approval rating would probably drop down to the low 60s. So that's why he thought it was so essential that every one of the items on the Contract with America had at least a 70% approval rating. That's exactly what we're seeing Trump do. With all of these EOs, not one will come out that the vast majority of the country doesn't support. There's a very real supermajority behind the MAGA America First agenda. All right, number 7, cancel the electric vehicle mandate. Michael, we should have like drum rolls or some kind of like number 7, that kind of like, I don't know. I remember the old David Letterman countdowns, but alas, this is part of reversing and unraveling the disastrous Green New Deal that the Biden administration has imposed in our nation. So back in 2021, Biden signed an executive order setting a nationwide goal aiming for 50% of new cars and trucks sold by 2030 to be electric and zero emission. Not because you want them, not because there's any demand on the free market. No, this is just pure government fiat. This is pure government dictate. That's it. In November, at a campaign event in Houston, Trump affirmed his promise, saying that on the very first day of taking office, he will cancel Crooked Joe's electric vehicle mandate. So we can expect that on day one as well. Number 6, this is very much related. Trump is going to revitalize the American auto industry. Now, this is in effect a big thank you, a huge thank you, as you would say, to Michigan and their auto workers unions that backed Trump overwhelmingly back in November. Trump has said that on day one of his presidency, we're going to return to an auto industry that'll be fueled by American energy, sourced by American suppliers, and built by American laborers. And he made it absolutely clear this will happen on his first day in office. So this is a big shout out to the Michigan auto workers who have always traditionally voted Democrat in every single presidential election over the last 2 generations, suddenly switching over, defecting, and voting en masse for President Trump. The Republican Party, the Trumpian Republican Party, is now the party of the working class, and it really starts with the auto workers and their union that came out and unilaterally endorsed Trump, and this is going to be a big payback on day one for them, and hopefully that will be enough to ensure at least that the Republicans are smart, not like the idiot Tories in the UK that basically thwarted the mandate they got in December of 2019. But if they're smart, that should be enough to more or less seal the deal for the working class realignment in the blue wall states, so Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Very hardcore union vote. It's inordinately working class, far more than the country at large, and this is why Kamala never had a chance, by the way, of winning any one of those 3 states. Scranton Joe did, but not Kamala. I don't think Joe would have, don't get me wrong, but at least in 2020, he had the chance because he was Scranton Joe, and he could relate to the working class. I mean, not literally, but his rhetoric was convincing enough. Hopefully, as of Monday, with Trump returning the auto industry to a full American control here in our borders. That's going to be enough to get the auto workers forever behind a new Trumpian working class Republican Party. Number 5, he is going to end the war in Ukraine. These are, if you're just joining us, these are the top 10 things Trump is going to do on day 1 of his presidency. This, according to a report by NBC News. They have a top 11. If you want to look up the article, I just conflated a couple and made it a top 10. He is determined to finally bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Now, as you all know, this is a top priority for President Trump. He's talked about it over and over again, and he's got a lot of cred right now, of course, just with the war in Gaza having come to an end. There's a mass consensus that's being formed even among left-wing media, the legacy media, that there was no way the ceasefire deal would ever have been struck if it weren't for Trump. In fact, the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire goes into effect literally within hours before Trump is sworn in on Sunday. That's what Trump insisted on. He insisted that the killing stop and that both sides figure out a ceasefire before he gets into office. And he wants to do exactly the same thing here between Russia and Ukraine. He has said repeatedly that he will end that war within 24 hours of taking office, which, of course, the implication there, I want everyone to understand, I know it's a bold promise, but the implication to that promise is that he sees the Biden administration and NATO as the primary perpetuators of that war. So within 24 hours of him coming to office, in effect, he will remove those two impediments to peace, those two primary impediments to peace. I think he understands what's going on. You know, we've talked about it endlessly here. I don't know if you saw, he actually he retweeted a post by Jeffrey Sachs that talked about, you know, the role of NATO and NATO eastward expansion that Putin has built. Well, actually, every single Russian leader since Gorbachev have been warning about since Eastern Germany was incorporated to Western Germany. And so he seems to get it. He seems to understand. We'll see. Hopefully he can keep the neocons away and I think fulfill a new multipolar peace that is going to require NATO to respect Eurasian orthosphere that is going to defend itself. There's just no ways. There's no way around it. It is going to defend its sovereignty, its spherical sovereignty, just the way we defended it when Khrushchev violated our spherical sovereignty with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Number 4, pardon J6 defenders. So Trump has repeatedly promised that, in his words, he said this, quote, within 9 minutes of entering into the Oval Office on day 1, he's going to be issuing a flurry of pardons for those charged and convicted of crimes on January 6th. They've already been written up. He just needs to sign them, as I understand it. As we speak, more than 1,500 defendants have been charged, nearly 1,300 convicted in the January 6th. Well, they call them investigations. We know what they are. They're kangaroo courts. Several hundred have either been released or have got no prison time. What's widely agreed upon is that I think we could pretty much say no one got a fair trial. Okay, at least that's my assessment, I should say. That's my opinion, right? Most particularly President Trump. He's the one who, more than anyone, experienced the most ridiculous sham kangaroo committee imaginable, where every single member had previously voted to impeach him. That was the prerequisite for actually being a part of that committee, Nancy Pelosi's committee. So President Trump has made it clear that he is going to be pardoning. I believe it's going to be all the J6 defendants, especially as he sees himself as a one who's been persecuted right along with them. And I think he will bring this very tragic chapter in our nation's history, at least as far as the defenders and their lives, defendants and their lives. He's going to bring a resolution to this horrifically politicized event. Number 3, the number 3 thing Trump will do on his first day in office: end all Biden-era border policies and all Biden era border policies. So among the flurry of executive orders he's expected to sign, Trump is going to eliminate the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that's known as the DACA program. He's going to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy that requires migrants to do just that, remain in Mexico until their court hearings are processed. He's going to end catch and release. And of course, the big one, he will resume building of the wall, that big, beautiful wall, as he would say, and which, by the way, thanks to Texas, has continued over the last 4 years, but now the federal government is all in. And we don't have Paul Eddie Munster Ryan as speaker anymore to get in the way of all its funding as we did back in 2017 and 2018. The number two thing that Trump will do on day one of his presidency, end birthright citizenship. This is what drives us in America crazy. I think we're one of only 2 countries in the world that has something called birthright citizenship. President Trump has confirmed he will end birthright citizenship by executive order on day one of his presidency. The key here is what Trump plans to end. He is intent on ending the practice of what's called anchor babies. So that's where if you have a baby within the borders of the United States, regardless of whether you're here legally or illegally, somehow all of a sudden, magically, the child transforms into a citizen of the United States, is suddenly entitled to any and all legal rights as a citizen, which in turn extends to the parents as well. So what Trump wants to do is he wants to broaden the widely agreed upon and recognized exemptions to that based on the 14th Amendment. So, for example, the 14th Amendment does not emphatically say that all persons born in the U.S. are citizens. That's not true. Obviously, a child born in the United States to a foreign diplomat is not a U.S. citizen. A foreign diplomat can serve here in the States for years, have lots and lots of kids born here, and not a single one of those children will be a citizen, not one. What Trump wants to do is make sure that if you're here illegally or temporarily and are not subject to the citizenship requirements of this nation, then if you have a baby, that baby does not automatically become a citizen of this nation. It just seems so common sense. And he's going to order an end to that practice on day one. And finally, that brings us to the number one thing President Trump will do on day one of his presidency. And that is, of course, begin mass deportations. This has been the centerpiece of his 2024 campaign, even more so than in 2016. And he has assembled a dream team to carry these mass deportations out. Here is Tom Homan, the new border czar, bringing the heat on CNN.
Many days after Trump is sworn in, before this effort to carry out the mass deportations begins, I know you said it starts on day one, but after how many days will we actually start to see that happening?
Day one. Day one will be ICE officers across the country will be out on the streets. Right out of the gate, President has made it clear, and I've made it clear, that priority right out of the gate is public safety threats and national security threats. And there's plenty of them to find, right? I looked at the data under the Biden administration. The deportation of criminal aliens have decreased 74%. So we have all those folks that the Biden administration failed to deport, plus you got this over 10 million encounters on the southern border that came across. We got a lot of them to look for too. So the public safety threats are plenty, and it's going to keep us busy.
I've heard it put. What somebody said, if Tom Homan were alive in the 10th century in Scandinavia, he'd be a Viking skull crusher or something like that. That guy is the real deal. Intellectually sharp, physically strong. I mean, this guy is, and just morally extraordinary. So there you have it, gang. The top 10 things Trump will do on day one of his presidency. It is going to be absolutely epic, and it promises to change not just America, but in many ways, as we're already seeing, the world for generations to come.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. This will truly be the goal